Easy everyone, my name is Sl8r. Well, it's my artist name. If you've not heard of me before or watched any of my videos, I make drum and bass jungle primarily, and I'm going to try and be a bit more active on this channel. I thought I'd kick things off by doing a breakdown of a jungle track that I made recently. The track's called 2.2 not 1.5. It's available on my Bandcamp. I'll put up a link in the video description. Yeah, it's an old school sort of tune, so I'm going to be showing you how sort of get that old school authentic jungle feel, and how you can sort of do that with your own tracks. So yeah, I'm going to give it a playthrough first, and then I'll start breaking down all the elements for you.
What's the idea?
Okay, yeah, I'll stop it there. I'm not going to play it all the way through, but I'll make sure I show you everything in there. Yes, the first thing to start with, probably the drums. So this is the sort of main drum break here. So the reason it's just one big file. So how I did the drums is, if you watch any of my other videos, you'll sort of see how I chop up my drums. I did it by using Sl8r, loading a break in, and chopping it into this pattern, sort of loading it in and rearranging it in MIDI. If you want more sort of information on that, watch my previous jungle videos, jungle tutorials, and it'll show you how I sort of chop up breaks in Sl8r. But yeah, so I've got this break. I've actually recorded it through my analog heat, which is my sort of analog saturation processor that I've got recently. So that's why it's all just this one big audio file. So I've ran it through that, recorded it in Edison, and got this sort of drum loop. So this is the main drum loop. So I think I did a tiny bit of compression stuff before, but not too much before I ran it through the analog heat. So yeah, this is the drum break here. So I'll walk through the processing that I've done on there. So first of all, we've got an EQ. So this is just taking out a couple of resonant frequencies that I didn't really like. So the way that I do that to sort of find those, I mean, a lot of people say this, you shouldn't use this method, and you shouldn't use it by default, but I could sort of hear that there was a lot of like sort of high end that had come from when I processed it with the analog heat. So I've just made a really tight bell sort of filter there and just run it through there. So you can hear those sort of like horrible frequencies that I've sort of cut. Yeah, so it's just, I think it's just makes it sound a bit nicer, just a little bit less piercing. It'll sound nicer when it's played through a loud sound system. Yeah, so next I've used this Brainworks emulator of the SSL 9000. So it looks kind of complicated if you've not seen one of these before. It's basically just like a fake analog console. So I've got a filter here. So this is just taking off the low end from 43 Hertz down. The filter on this is quite smooth, so it's nice on drums for just because that's just going to remove any sort of sub bass that we don't really need. That's going to be clashing with the actual sort of bass of the track. So I'm using, there's a bit of compression here, so this is the sort of compression bit. So it's just sort of doing just about 3 decibels of sort of gain reduction. So the compression on here, you can't set the attack, which is a little bit annoying. It's got an auto gain thing, so you don't have to apply makeup gain, it does that for you. So this is the ratio, so I've got it not too much, 1.9 to 1. The release I've got quite fast, because I want to make sure that the transients aren't being sort of affected. I want to make sure the compression's stopping quite quickly. And you just sort of set the threshold with this. So it's doing a tiny bit of compression. This section here is the EQ. So I'm taking down some of the high end. This break that I used had quite some splashy high end, so I thought that needed taking down a bit. And that's the only EQing I've done with this. Yeah, and then so this V gain thing here basically is just sort of adding just sort of noise to it to just make it feel a bit less clinical, to try and make it sound a bit more sort of old school. That was my sort of aim with this track, so I've used a lot of sort of plugins that sort of emulate old hardware. So the next plugin I've used is a plugin that I've been using a lot recently. It's a free plugin by Air Windows called Density. It's really simple. I mean, if you use it in FL Studio, this is just what the GUI looks like. So you just got this sort of knob here for density, and it's just a saturator, but it's a really clean one. Really good, I think, for using on breaks, getting them nice and loud. And then afterwards, I've just used a couple of clippers. So I've used this standard clip, hard clip, so it's just doing not actually a lot. There we go, I just need to readjust that. Yeah, so I'm just doing a tiny bit of hard clipping. I do a lot of clipping, especially with the drums, just really small amounts. But quite a few clippers. It's a technique that I've picked up from a few different people, and it's good for, yeah, it gets you sort of more loudness out of your drums, and it means that it's gonna mean that you can push your master a bit louder. Stuff's gonna be going into the master limiter a little bit less sort of spiky and hot. So yeah, you'll see that I've used quite a few different clippers at points in this track. The next one I've used is by Newfangled Audio, Saturate. So you can see this yellow bit here is the bit that's been clipped. And yeah, you can slide this between soft and hard clipping. I'm just using hard clipping because I think it sounds a bit cleaner in a sense. Just because it's only doing like a small amount of clipping, so it's sort of trying to retain the characteristics of the original sound as much as possible. So yeah, that's what I've done for this drum break. I've got a couple of different breaks throughout the track that I've used. So this is the main sort of break. I've got a break here underneath. When the sort of like drop happens, when the bass kicks in. So this is just adding sort of texture underneath. So yeah, that's always a good technique if you're making a jungle tune, is to just sort of like layer another break underneath your main sort of break. I mean, yeah, again, this is a break that I've ran through my analog heat. So this is the layer here. I've EQ'd it with this FGS, part of the Sl8r Digital mix track. It's like an emulation of the SSL EQ, so similar to the one I've used on the original break, the main break. So this is the filter here. I filtered up to about 100 Hertz. I wanted it to be, this break to be like a sort of a tinny break that sort of layered underneath. So the extra snares in this are just sort of adding sort of little interesting shuffles and stuff between the main break is sort of my thinking, layering this underneath. Yeah, so just EQ'd out the low end, and I've put this gate on as well just to tighten it up. So I'll just solo this, and I'll take this gate off so you can sort of hear what it's doing. So it's just subtle, but because I've got this release set to not too crazy amount, but it's just tightening it up a little bit, just making the transients a little bit more pronounced. Yeah, so that's what I sort of do generally when I've got my layer underneath the sort of main layer. I'll EQ out a lot of the low end. Usually use either a gate or a transient shaper to try and tighten it up a little bit. And yeah. So yeah, so that's the sort of main section. I've got a little bit of filtering that happens as well. So if I just go to, so all these breaks and the break layer are just bus to this main bus. So on there, I've just got another density, just like a really small amount. Just giving it a little bit extra saturation, and another clipper that's just, yeah, just clipping, because obviously some of the layers are going to be, I've got this break layer layered over the other ones, so it's just making sure, yeah, just clipping again, that's clipping in small amounts just on individual parts, and then on the drum bus, it's just that idea again, just clipping in lots of bits in small amounts instead of doing one big sort of like clipping putting just a limiter on everything, squashing it all down, just squashing it all, clipping it in small amounts. Yeah, the filter that I've used is the DJM filter by Sl8r. It's free, and it's just basically a recreation of the filter you get on a Pioneer mixer. So it's really simple, just turn it left for a low pass, right for a high pass. So that's just automated in a couple of places. So yeah, sort of low pass filters and high pass filters, really good for just getting transitions from sort of like 16 bar phrases, which is what I've used here. It's just at the end of a 16 bar phrase. But yeah, you can do sort of like more quick ones, more quick filtering, just to sort of make bits interesting, make interesting fills and stuff in your drums. So the next break that I used, this break goes on for sort of quite a bit. I've got another break that comes in here. So the processing on this one, again, I've used this Brainworks console. A bit more, sort of taking a bit more of the low end out. Similar sort of compression again, with a bit more of a higher ratio on this one. So if I just take this off, and you can sort of hear how it sounds without it. Yeah, so it's just tightening up those snares really, making it a bit more sort of, yeah, gel together, a bit punchier. No sort of, yeah, I did a little bit of an EQ boost to sort of 1.3k just on this one. Again, that was just out of taste, and then again another density, just doing a little bit more saturation. Again, this break was saturated through the analog heat, and then a bit of clipping on the end, a bit of soft clipping this time. Again, yeah, just if you get a clipper, just sort of practice the difference between soft clipping and hard clipping, and you can sort of hear what the difference is between them. So the next break that comes in is after the breakdown. So I'll go through all the sort of track layout in a second. So yeah, if I take the processing off this one I had to do like a bit more processing too, you can see. Just mute it. Yeah, so yeah, first of all, so the EQ, so the sort of dry break after I'd saturated it, there was quite a lot of booming low end, so I wanted to sort of take that out. And yeah, again, a lot of jungle is about the snare, so I just wanted to sort of make that snare sort of pop. So I've taken down a little bit of sort of 200 hertz, just a little dip there, a little boost around sort of 900, 800 for the snare, a little sort of dip around 9k. Yeah, so just taking out some of that sort of resonance from the shakers a little bit. So next I've used Neutron, which is a really good sort of general processing. This is the old version. I think they're on 4 now. This is 2. So what I've done is a little bit of gating on the high end. So the again, if I just play this dry, moment. yeah, it's kind of got some like splashy highs. So I've used a gate to tighten those a little bit there. And a gate on this sort of lower mid bit as well. I just used a gate on this brake because it needed tightening up a bit. And then I've used done a bit of compression. Really slow attack, pretty fast release, just to sort of tuck the transients in a little bit, tuck the kick and the snare in a little bit. A little bit of compression on the high end as well. A bit more demand compression. So yeah, just a little bit to sort those sort of splashy sort of hi-hats out a bit, to sort of tame those a bit. And again, I've used a bit of transient shaping on the high end as well, boosting the attack a little bit and tucking the sustain in a little bit. So if I just sort of mute this plugin or bypass it, where's the bypass there? Yeah, so it's really sort of tightened it up a bit, tucked it in, made the kick and the snare a bit more prominent, a bit more pronounced, so they're going to punch through a bit more in the mix. Yeah, so that's sort of that was more some sort of clinical sort of stuff that I was doing. Next, I've used another one of these again. I've just used this on all of them, all the drum breaks, just to try and give them, make them sound a bit more, because they're all different breaks, so I'm trying to make them sound, like they fit together. So running them all through this sort of plugin helps that a bit. Again, just a bit of a high pass, just about 40 hertz, bit of compression, no EQing on there because I'd already done a bit of EQ into it, so I didn't feel like it needed any more on this. And then again, density, just doing a little bit of extra saturation and a clipper. Yeah, because you've got kind of like pokey snares in this break, so it's just sort of sorting them out, leveling them with the kick a bit, so it's not gonna drive the sort of mastering limiter a bit crazy. Yeah, so again, another break. And I've chopped all these up with Sl8r, I should say. Again, so this break, I'm running it through the SSL 9000 console. Bit more of a low end, the low end taken out on this break because it's pretty boomy, that sort of kick. Yeah, bit of compression. And I've used another compressor. This one's doing some parallel compression. Yeah, so you can see it's compressing it quite a lot, but I've just taken the mix down to about 20%. So I mean, you have to take this off. Yeah, so it's just giving it a bit more control. So yeah, sometimes using the compressor in parallel is pretty good on your breaks. And then I'm not going to show you, but again, I've used density and a clipper at the end. So that's pretty much the drums. Yeah, so they just sort of change throughout the track. I've got some little filler Apache bits here actually that which, yeah, I've just done a really simple high pass on to take out the low end. yeah, I really like layering Apaches over stuff like high pass. It always sounds really good. So I'll talk about the sort of intro and the pads next. So it starts off with this pad. So I made this with the Arturia Jupiter plugin. So it looks kind of complicated. I'll just sort of, if you've not seen it before, you've basically got two oscillators, which is VCO1 and VCO2. So on the first oscillator, I'm using a saw wave, and I'm using, I think a rectangle wave. So yeah, kind of similar to a square wave. You sort of mix between the two with this knob, so it's pretty much 50-50. So I'll just yeah, okay, so I mean, if I take it all the way to oscillator 1, you can hear sort of how that sounds. All the way over to oscillator 2. So yeah, it's basically just a minor ninth chord, that's just going down. So it's the same chord, just moving about. So that's a really good way of getting that authentic jungle pad sound, is just using a minor sort of 7th or a 9th or a major 7th or a major 9th. And just sort of transposing it up and down, making a sort of pattern that way. Really good tip if you're using FL Studio and you want to put in a minor 9th is to click this button here, and you've got all sorts of chords. I mean, yeah, you've clicked this advanced thing, you can see you've got loads of chords that you can add in, or you can just quickly click minor 9th, and then I want to add it. I wanted to do it in A sharp, so I just click on the A sharp, and it puts it in there for me, chord. So yeah, we've got a nice mix between those two. So you've got an LFO here, that's yeah, you can pick the shape of the LFO, so it's just a sine shape, pretty slow rate. I've got it set to hertz, so it's not synced. So I just wanted a really slow LFO, and that is affecting the filter here. So this section here is the filter. So I've got a little bit of a high pass. I've got a high pass filter at, yeah, about 400 hertz. Didn't want any sort of low end. This is the low pass, so that's at about, yeah, 1.5k, so I didn't really want too much high end. But this LFO's on the filter, so it's really slowly changing the cutoff of this low pass. So if I just sort of play it, you can hear it. It's affecting that cutoff, but really slowly. This is also the amplitude section, so the volume. So you've got this sort of knob for the LFOs that's really slightly affecting the volume as well, just to get a bit of movement. So these envelopes, this one, envelope 1, is affecting the cutoff as well. You can see it set here. It's like a really small amount, just by a really small amount, really subtle amount. So it's just about with these pads, getting these sort of old school jungle pad sounds. I think if you're not like sort of sampling other pads, if you want to make them yourself, it's all about just creating these like all small interesting movements. So yeah, I mean, if I go into the advanced section, you can see I've got 2 other LFOs. So this one's affecting the pulse width. So that's this knob here. So the pulse width is sort of the shape almost. It's called on a lot of synthesizers, and it's just changing the sort of shape of the waveform. So that's another LFO that's affecting that, only by a small amount. It's also affecting the rate of this LFO, so that's going to change slightly as well. So that's going to just create more movement. Another LFO changing the rate of this attack, this envelope that's affected to the cutoff, and it's also added to the cutoff as well. So there's lots of just different changes. That's why when you listen to it through the track, it changes a lot. It's not just a sort of the same sound every time. I mean, yeah, you can see this is like this is all the LFOs sort of moving, so it looks pretty crazy. So that's why it's sort of changing so much. I've used a couple of effects on here, just a reverb. So the reverb's here, a chorus, and another filter, just taking out a little bit of some of that harsh, super high end that might come through. It's probably not doing too much. It's more of a just sort of safety thing. But I've done quite a lot of processing in post-processing in FL Studio on it. So I turn all this off, and then I play the pad. You can sort of hear. Yeah, so firstly, I've used another chorus on it. This TAL chorus is the best sounding chorus, I think, and it's free. It's modelled after the sort of Juno chorus, but it's the best sounding one that I've come across. So I use it a lot on stuff. It does mess with the stereo image quite a bit, but that's sort of what a chorus does anyway. So yeah, I think it's really good. So firstly, I've used that. So next, I've used this black box saturation plugin by Plugin Alliance. It's modelled after the black box, which is an actual sort of hardware thing. So yeah, just turn it on sort of like with this bit here, and it's just doing a bit of saturation just to I'm also using this air bit here, which is really good. So you just sort of click this, and you can add it. Just adds sort of top end sparkle. So I've used that to boost it up a little bit. Next, I've used this Korg MDEX. So this is just a collection of sort of sound effects similar to ones you get on Korg synthesizers by Korg. So this is just using the Sl8r. It just thought up about 50% wet, so you can just sort of hear this. I'll turn it off. Yeah, so it's just adding a lot of like nice high-end sparkle. That's what I'm doing with a lot of these plugins, especially with this pad, just to make it give it a bit more shimmer. Next, yeah, again similar. I've used this Vitalizer, which is again a sort of hardware emulator. So it's just meant to be sort of like running it through sort of tubes. So again, just to sort of get that old school sort of sound. yeah, just again, it's pretty much an exciter as well. So just another exciter to sort of bring it up a little bit. It's actually adding a little bit of warmth as well, I think, from this mid-high tune bit. I think you can sort of tune that down a little bit. So it's adding a little bit of stuff to the sort of like about 2K. Next, so I've used RC20, which is a sort of so this is doing quite a bit. So this is used by lo-fi producers a lot to sort of wear down stuff and make it sound like it's come from a vinyl record or something. So so we've got this noise section. So this is just adding, if I just open it back up. So if I turn this noise up, you can sort of hear what it's adding to it, just really subtly. There's loads of different noises you can pick. So this is like sort of adding sort of noise as if it's been recorded onto tape. You've got this wobble section as well that's just adding. I've got it again set really low, but if I turn it up, so it's just adding a little bit of pitch wobble. Again, just making it sound a little bit more. You sort of degenerate, like what's it? The word degenerating the sound a little bit. This is just doing a small amount of distortion to it. This sort of magnetic bit is just adding sort of like an effect as if it's been recorded off a tape. So if you turn it up a bit, so it just causes small flutters like that. So this is really good plugin if you want that sort of old school sort of sound. It's really good for making stuff sound like it's been ripped from an old record or like an old DAT tape or something. And then just a bit of EQing at the end, just to take out any sort of low end that's going to come from this distortion and from any of these other saturation plugins. So that's pretty much it for that pad. Then I've got this violin sort of sound that comes in. So this is a really sort of classic trick for sort of old school jungle tunes. If you want to add a bit of texture to your intro, just add a really high string sample, just one note in the key of the root. So this has come from the Korg Triton plugin. So the Korg Triton, really famous keyboard. So it's just a violin. It was a violin and a viola. I just layered a piano on. I swapped it for a piano instead. Just a little bit of reverb, chorus, and EQ on there. I could probably do taking it down a little bit. So just something really subtle in the background like that adds good texture to your track. A couple of other sounds that build up. So I've got this pad here. So this is the Jupiter again. This was just a preset that I messed about with. So again, it's just 2 rectangle waves. Playing a really high note. yeah, reverb chorus. There's a stereo pan on as well, so it's just sort of like, yeah. You can hear, if you've got headphones on, you can probably hear it like sort of changing between the left and the right. So just giving a bit of stereo. Yeah, so it's just about building up with these sort of airy little synth sounds, I think. So I've also got... Yeah, this was just a preset from ANA, which is... or Anna, I think they call it, which is a synth that you get with Sl8r Digital. It's really good. They release new presets for it every month. But it is a really powerful synth if you wanted to sort of like go in and make your own sounds. You basically get 3 oscillators, 3 samplers, loads of different filter types in there modelled after sort of analog synthesizer filters. Really cool. But yeah, this is just a really sort of like high pitched sort of little synthy sound. So I've just sort of like got the key of the track and then just sort of recorded myself playing a few things on my my MIDI keyboard just to add little musical bits underneath the main pad. So here I've got, I think this is just a piano. Yeah, so I should say I've got some sends all the way along here. So I've got a reverb send and a delay send. So all these sorts of tracks are linked to there. So I've sidechained them all. Every sort of musical sort of sound and FX sound on my pads and stuff, and I'm using a Fruity Send plugin just to sidechain it. So this is basically acting as a send. So what it does is it's keeping the dry signal and then it's adding another signal through to this. So this is going through to delay. So play this at the start. And doing it this way means that you can mute this, so you can hear, you can mute the original. So this is just the delay that's coming through, so it means that you can listen to the delay signal separately rather than having to just sort of only hear them all both at once, which is what happens if you were to route it just by clicking like that and using that. So that's why I've started using the Fruity Send plugin to do sends. So that's what I've done for all of these. So I've got a reverb send, which has just got a reverb, an EQ taking out all the low end. And then I've used this Verb Suite Classics from Sl8r Digital. I've used a super long decay reverb, 8-second decay. Yeah, because I really needed the reverb to be really spacey. I wanted all the elements that I used this in this track to be really sort of spacey. So I've done that. So I've done that with a really long decay, and then I've used a compressor just to control them, just because there's going to be different noises of different sort of volumes that are going through. So I wanted to just sort of add a bit of control to the reverb. So that's what I usually do at the end of a reverb send. I usually add a compressor afterwards. Just to catch any sort of peaks or anything. I'll talk about this duck plugin in a second. Yeah, same with the delay, just an EQ. I've just EQ'd, so I wanted this sort of region to be where this delay sort of happens. So just EQ'd this bits out. And I've used Repeater by D16, which is a really good delay plugin. Lots of different types of delays you can use. So yeah, these are both, the delay and the reverb plugins are at 100% wet as well. Yeah, just sort of quarter dotted, I think is always a really good sort of time to use for jungle. I think it's always a good sort of timing, so you get that sort of. I'll just play one of these FX plugins. Not that one, this one. Yeah, I just really like that quarter dotted timing with the delay. So yeah, pretty much everything else in the track, all these little weird bits are all that I've just used to sort of fill out the track and make it more interesting, are all sourced from lots of really random places. I've got them from video game sort of sample packs, so some of them are from like the original Grand Theft Auto game, some of them are from some old Batman game, some of them are from the original sort of pinball. I've got just like weird little samples like this dub one. This riser, just a random riser. I've used a lot of them from the 0G data files sample pack. So if you're looking for sort of authentic sort of old school samples, that would be a good place to look, and you can get them all for free online, I'm pretty sure, if you look on Reddit. So yeah, I've just used loads of these pretty much on the sort of like first beat of every sort of like 8 bars, just to sort of add interest. So we've got like with lots of reverb and delay just to fill out the track. Yeah, this is some weird little break. Originally, this is what it sounds like, and then I've pitched it up. Check it out, y'all. You don't stop. So I've just cut that bit, pitched it up. Just a little transition. Check it out, y'all. Check it out, y'all. Yeah, loads of just random little samples. Because that's pretty much what people did when they were making jungle. They were just sort of sampling anything they could find. So I've just sort of like tried to carry that on by just loads of random little samples. I've got some cool yeah, so this is a sort of bit in the track where the main sort of break ends, so wait till they get a load of me. Yeah, that's from Batman, I think. Then I've got these sort of weird to just as a sort of, it's sort of like a almost a key change almost. Some chimes as well. Yeah, so what other sounds have I got in there? So yeah, I didn't actually show you this piano sound. I'm pretty sure is yes, the M1. So it's a mixture of the electric piano and like a little kalimba sample. So yeah, a piano with loads of delay on is always a really good thing to use in sort of intros, I think, in jungle tracks to get that sort of authentic feel. Yeah, so those are pretty much all the sort of sounds in it. I've got this, which is a dub siren I made in Serum. So it's just this one envelope. I've used an LFO as an envelope of just sort of like a really fast peak at the start, and that's on. So I've used a square wave here, pitched up a bit. So that's on the sync. So that's sort of doing that sort of really quickly. It's on this filter cutoff as well, so it's just sort of letting a bit of high end in. So yeah, this is what sort of the dub siren sort of sounds like. So I've got a bit of noise as well, a bit of white noise. So that's what this LFO's on as well. It's on the pitch and the level. So this is just adding a bit. I mean, it doesn't do too much if I mute this. It's just adding a little bit more texture to it. Yeah, it's on this coarse pitch here as well. So if I bypass that a second. So it's that fast envelope on the coarse pitch that's getting that sort of like almost zapping sort of sound that you get with a dub siren. So if I'll mute that again. So it's sort of going down like that. FX, yeah, I mean obviously it's got a delay on it. I've used a ping pong delays, which is why you can hear it sort of the delay swapping between the sort of left and right channel. Again, dotted delay I think always sounds really good with this jungle. It gives you that sort of reggae sort of dub sort of sound. Just a tiny bit of distortion, bit of compression, and some reverb as well. A bit of EQing, just taking out the low end, the super low end or the sub, and this hyper dimension, which just gives you a bit of stereo in the sort of, yeah, in the sort of high end. And this LFO is just on this on the level of this, because obviously if this was just constant, so yeah, that's how you sort of make a dub siren in Serum. So yeah, the next thing to tell you about, the only thing to tell you about next, I suppose, would be the bass. The bass is pretty simple. It's just an 808 that I made in Serum, so I'll show you how I've made it. So I've just got this pattern. So it's pretty much the same all the way throughout the track. It's mainly the sort of drums and these sorts of weird elements that are taking it through. The bass does change here, just sort of where this break sort of change happens. So yeah, I mean, I've not even done any processing on the 808, just a bit of side chaining, which I'll go over in a second. So it's using the analog BD sine wavetable, which is basically just yeah, like a bass drum pretty much. So that's pretty much what an 808 is. It's a bass drum. So it's this. We've got one envelope here, which is really fast, sort of peak thing like that, which is set to the master tune. So that's just getting the sort of just load this up. if I just sort of mute this. Yeah, it's just getting that sort of that twang that you get from a sort of 808. I've got this wavetable, which is basically morphing between a sine wave and a triangle wave, and then like a distorted sort of sine wave. So it's just like it's really good for using FM. So I've got like a tiny amount of FM here, which is just adding extra harmonics. If I take this down, yeah, so it's just adding extra harmonics to it, so it's just going to help it be heard through better speakers, so it's not just a sub note. Yeah, a bit of soft clipping. I've used this multi-band compressor bit here, so that's completely taking out the sort of low end down, taking the mids down a little bit and boosting the lows a little bit. So if I take it off, so yeah, you can sort of see how that's sort of controlling the sort of low end, and then an EQ that's just boosting, yeah, 200 hertz and up. So again, it's just boosting these extra harmonics down that are a bit higher up, that are just going to help it be heard through through sort of crap speakers. If you're listening to it through crap speakers or crap headphones, you're going to be able to hear the bass a bit better. So yeah, that's how I've sort of made the 808 for this tune. Yeah, this envelope's just giving you, this is the sort of volume envelope. So again, you want this sort of shape, you want that sort of decay when you make the 808. You want to make sure that the sustain's up. So yeah, we talk about the side chaining now. So I've got these kick and snare samples, which are actually muted. They're just layered over wherever the kick and the snare is happening. And I'm just using those as like sidechain triggers. So let's just play. Yeah, so it's these two. So this is the kick. I've got that side chained to this break layer. So I use Duck by Devious Machines at the moment for side chaining. So it's not compressing, it's just ducking the volume. It sounds a little bit cleaner than using compression, I think, because when you use sidechain compression, you tend to get sort of artifacts afterwards. You get like weird clicks after the compression's happening sometimes. So this, you don't really get that with this, because it's just ducking the volume down. So yeah, this is just ducking down this break layer whenever the kick's happening. So just making sure that kick's coming through clean, and that the kick or any sort of bit of this break that's happening when the kick's happening isn't gonna affect it. And then I've also got the kick on sidechain to the sub. So it just means that you're gonna not get any of that clashing low end. And then I've got the snare. So I've got all my music elements bussed to this one bus here, where I've got Clean Sweep Pro, which is just a really gentle filter that's just filtering any sort of low end out at like 150 down. It's not like a high pass, it's just a really gentle, got really gentle slopes, so that it's yeah, just taking down low end that's not needed. So just making sure that the bass has got room in the mix. I'm using like a little bit of density as well, just to sort of saturate everything, to gel it all together a little bit. And then this side chain for when the snare's happening. Yeah, and so that's pretty much the whole track. So yeah, big ups if you've watched through this far. I'm probably going to have to split this into a couple of videos from looking at the time that I've been recording for. Yeah, so I hope you got some tips from making your own jungle tunes. If you've got any sort of ideas of stuff you'd like me to do videos on, feel free to leave a comment, and I'll try and make that happen. So yeah, big ups for watching, and I've been Sl8r. Big ups.